Alright, loyal followers of the BS Academy channel, I am here with another part of the ICHIMOKU indicator tutorial, and this course is almost coming to an end. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I strongly suggest you check out the ICHIMOKU playlist on my YouTube channel and watch each part of this course carefully from the beginning. The ICHIMOKU indicator is a very powerful and useful tool. I've tried to teach it to you step by step, part by part. I don't know how successful I've been in helping you, but I've made every effort to introduce each component to you, teach you how to use them, and show you how to get signals from each of these different elements. Today, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the ICHIMOKU indicator to draw support and resistance lines professionally and accurately. One thing to note about this method is that it can be a bit time-consuming, and it might make your chart look a little cluttered.
To easily and freely register with the quotex broker, click on the link in the video description.
However, it's definitely worth it to use this method, even if it means spending a bit more time and having a somewhat cluttered chart. The payoff is that you can get much better results in the future when the candles reach these lines. These lines will stay on your chart, and you can use them later because, as I've mentioned in some of my previous videos, the essence of technical analysis is that the market tends to repeat itself. We draw a series of lines based on the past market movements, and these lines were important and powerful back then. They will certainly be useful and relevant for us in the future as well. To draw support and resistance lines using this method, we need the Kumo cloud, Kijun Sen, and Chiku span. So if you don't mind, I'm going to remove the Tenkan Sen to make the chart a bit cleaner so that we can get better results and you won't get too confused with the chart. Let me explain it this way. For this method of drawing lines, we need three types of lines. We draw one set of lines using the Kumo cloud, another set using the Kijun Sen, and the third set using the Chiku span. I'll use a different color for each of these lines so that you can easily tell which one belongs to which. You should do the same to avoid getting confused on the chart. I'm assuming that I want to trade on a 10-minute time frame. No matter which time frame you want to trade on, you first need to go up one time frame. Since I want to trade on the 10-minute chart, I'll switch the chart to the 15-minute time frame. As I explained in previous sections, the Kumo cloud itself has a series of peaks and troughs, highs and lows. We go to each of these peaks and troughs of the Kumo cloud on a higher time frame and draw lines. For example, I'll draw the first one in white so you can see it more clearly on the screen. Here we have a trough, and over here we have a peak. Now here we see another trough. I won't go too far back into the past, but you should go further back and mark these areas, like the ones up here. I'm not going to extend it much more to keep this lesson brief and get to the main point quickly. So let's bring the time frame back to the primary one where I plan to trade. What do I do next? I repeat the same process. I go back to the 10-minute time frame and I see a peak here, and similarly, there's a trough here. If I go further back, I'll find more, but some of these were already marked on the higher time frame, and since they are close, we don't need to redo those. I don't want to clutter the chart too much, but you should go further back and mark the rest of the peaks, like those up here. I'm just trying to keep the chart from getting too crowded. So these are our first set of lines that I drew in white, which were based on the Kumo cloud. Now, I'll shift the time frame up one level, and here we'll work with the Kijun Sen. Which lines should we draw? We need to mark the areas where the Kijun Sen and the Kumo cloud align. Also, I forgot to mention that you should also mark the areas where the Kumo cloud flattens out. For example, here the Kumo cloud was green and then turned red, but you can see it flattened out. This is where the Senku span A and B form the cloud. When the Senku span B flattens, we need to mark these areas as well. Let me go ahead and draw that as well. I forgot to mention that whenever you see this type of scenario where the Kumo cloud changes shape and then flattens out, you can also draw lines there, specifically where the Kumo cloud flattens out and both clouds are aligned with each other. Let me clarify. I'm referring to situations where two clouds flatten out directly opposite each other. For example, if you see two clouds flattening out like this, you can mark those areas as well. As you can see here, we could draw a line here too. But to explain it better, let me show you what I mean. Sometimes the chart doesn't quite show what we're looking for, but let me see. For example, here we see that our green Kumo cloud has flattened out. If these two clouds were directly opposite each other, aligned on the same level, we would need to draw a line there as well. But as you can see, they're not perfectly aligned. One is a bit higher than the other. If they were aligned, we would mark this area too. That's what I mean. I hope you understand my point, even though I'm not finding a perfect example on this chart right now. Now, if I spot it again, I'll point it out to you. I don't want to take up too much time on this, so let's move on to Kijun Sen. There are places where we see Kijun Sen has flattened out, and directly opposite it, the Kumo cloud has also flattened out. In those cases, we should draw a line as well. For example, here, if I want to give you an example, Kijun Sen has flattened out, and across from it, we see the Kumo cloud has also flattened out. However, the Kumo cloud is slightly higher. If it were lower, aligning exactly with Kijun Sen, we would draw a line here as well. Let's search for a spot where this has happened so we can mark it. Here, we see exactly this situation, friends. Here we have our Kijun Sen, and right here, the Kumo cloud has also flattened out in alignment with it. I should change the color of this line, maybe yellow, so it stands out on this darker chart. This is where our Kijun Sen was, and the Kumo cloud also flattened out right in line with it. Now we should mark all other areas where this has happened. For instance, here, where the Kijun Sen has flattened out, the Kumo cloud is also directly on top of it. We can mark this with another line as well. We'll continue looking back in the past to find more instances where this occurred, and then we return to our original time frame. So in this example, we were using the 10-minute time frame. We'll switch back to the 10-minute time frame and once again analyze where our Kijun Sen aligns with the Kumo cloud, so that we can mark it as another line. Let's go back and find a couple of these instances if we can spot them here. Here you can also see that a similar situation has occurred. The Kijun Sen has flattened out, forming a horizontal line, and ahead of it, the Kumo cloud has done the same. Although there is a bit of a gap between them, it's okay. I'll draw this line as well, so the chart isn't too empty, and you can better understand what I mean. Well, this really needs to be thoroughly examined on the chart so you can see it. Here too, a similar situation has almost occurred. But since it's very close to the other one, there's no need to draw it again. Here, we can see the same thing happening again. After searching so much, we finally found one. Look, this is the Kijun Sen, and this is the Kumo cloud. It doesn't matter whether it's Senku span A or B, as long as they are aligned, just like you see here. The same thing has happened for Senku span A down here. Now, I'll draw this one, and I'll also draw the one below since they are perfectly aligned here. This covers the second set of lines that we marked in yellow. Now, there's one more set of lines left to draw, and for that we need to focus on the Chiku span. You don't need to move to a higher time frame for this. You can do it right on the main time frame where you plan to trade. Wherever a peak or trough, a high or low is formed, we'll mark these with the Chiku span. The Chiku span visually resembles the RSI. It's like the RSI chart where we draw these peaks and troughs. We have a low right here. Let's choose a color for this as well. I always have trouble picking colors, but I hope this one will be clear enough for you. On my screen everything looks clear, but I know many of you watch these videos on your phones through YouTube, so the colors might not show up as well. I'll go with red this time. I think red should be noticeable. Alright, here we had a low, a bottom. We can mark this area. And over here, we can identify this as a peak. We can continue to look back in the past and mark the lows and highs. For example, here. Or maybe this point might be more appropriate. These are all done on the same main time frame that we plan to trade on. There's no need to switch to a higher time frame. Or even here, this would be a good spot to mark. That should be enough. We don't want to overcrowd it. As you can see, it took a bit of time and now our chart is quite cluttered with lines. But rest assured, it's worth it. First, let me remove the ICHIMOKU from the chart to make it a bit cleaner. So now we're just left with the candlesticks and the lines we've drawn. I've also increased the thickness of these lines to the maximum, which is why it looks so cluttered. It's just so it's clear in the video. When you're drawing these lines, you won't be using such thick lines, so it will definitely look better. What we need to do now is to go through these lines one by one and keep the ones that have had more touches and reactions, which indicates they are stronger. We can delete the rest. You'll notice that many of them are close to each other. However, all these lines are important. If you look closely, you'll see each of them has had several touches and trend reversals. For example, this white line here has one or two, or look here at this red line and this white one. Or if you check this line here, you'll see several trend reversals. Look at this red line. There was a trend change here, and the shadow of this candle touched it, leading to a reversal. Then again, a green candle came down and reversed. Each line is important in its own way, but we don't need to keep them all. We'll go through them one by one to evaluate. And for those areas where the lines are very close to each other and haven't really seen much trend change, for example, I might decide I don't need this line, so I'll delete it. Or let's say this line, it's not bad, but these two lines are very close to each other. I've checked this one in the past, and it's been broken a lot without much trend change, so I'll delete it. Or something happened somewhere, dear friends. We see, for example, a line of ours. Now I want to see something like this. Let's see this red line of ours exactly from where it was drawn. That is, how accurately and beautifully we drew it. And now, because I drew a bit carelessly, I need some of these. They have to go up and down a bit. See, in some places, friends may be a line of ours. Like this, a similar place has been drawn. Our yellow line, for example, if he has such a state, he has drawn both of them very close to each other, and we can see both of them are important and have shown good trend reversals. For example, look at this yellow line or how the shadows have touched it here. This white one is also clearly significant. We can keep both of these lines and treat them as a zone, using them as a support or resistance area. Dear friends, these lines are definitely valuable and highly useful. We can leverage them a lot in the future as the market progresses. You can see that I've already removed some of them and kept others, making the chart a bit cleaner, but these lines can still be very helpful as the market continues. Look at even the yellow lines I've drawn up here. See how the long shadow of this candle reached all the way to this line. This line has already shown a trend reversal in the past, and it's certain that we will see similar reactions on these lines in the future, allowing us to make successful trades with them. This was the method for drawing support and resistance lines using the ICHIMOKU indicator. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it might take a bit more time, and it might confuse you or make your chart look cluttered, but it's worth it because you can definitely use them effectively. Make sure to use this method if you're planning to trade based on support and resistance. It can be very helpful because these lines are drawn very accurately and will definitely be useful in the future market. However, try not to keep lines that are too close together. Leaving some space between them is better. You can see here, for example, that this line has shown a trend reversal towards the end.
Dear friends, to make sure you don't miss any of our videos, please subscribe to the BS Academy channel. Also, activate the notification bell so that you are informed as soon as we publish new videos. Thank you for your support.